I love meme content creators when it comes to World of Tanks Blitz. They bring a lot of people into the game, and obviously it gets the YouTube side a lot of views, which are always good things for the community and the game in general. But one thing I don't like about meme content creators is the fact that they over-exaggerate problems that don't really exist in the game. For years now, I have been hearing the quote, "Don't get the IS-7 and don't get the 60 TP because of the weak ammo rack that these vehicles feature." And sure, if you shoot the rear of the 60 TP turret, there is a chance that you can ammo rack it if you're using a 150mm. But as I always tell people, why are you allowing a tank with a 150mm to aim in on the back of your turret? It's not like this is a vehicle that's a rear turreted tank where it's easy to get behind it. It's not like you're a tank destroyer with no turret. It's pretty easy to just turn your vehicle and not let whatever high caliber gun that was aiming at you to absolutely chunk you in the rear. The only other spot you can possibly get ammo racked is on the side if you allow people to shoot at your corner cutouts. But, as I say time and time again, don't poke showcasing those corner cutouts. It's pretty simple to not expose these weaknesses, and if you do expose them, then yeah, there is a chance you might get ammo racked, but that's more of a user error rather than the tank's fault. The 60 TP is a vehicle that you should try to showcase your frontal armor, get hauled down, and bonk people frontally. Not a tank that you should show your sides to, or the rear of your turret to your enemy. Now, there's a couple changes in the latest game update that have definitely helped out the 60. First of all, defense system now has a minus 25% chance of ammo rack explosion, which is absolutely huge, and it means any vehicle like the 60 TP obviously has a much higher chance of even withstanding one of those shots fired at it. Not only that, but if you want to make your tank even more robust, you can put on Protective Kit, which gives you an additional 10% ammo rack durability. So that means you are having not only more durability on your ammo rack, but minus 25% of the chance of the ammo rack even detonating. Combine those things together, and you're almost never going to actually have an ammo rack in a vehicle like the 60 TP. So we're going to get into two battles here. We're going to see what the 60 can do. I'm going to share my thoughts, opinions, and beliefs on why I think that this is one of the strongest tier 10s, and we're going to have a fun time overall. I mean, I have personally believed for ever since the 60 was released into the game that it's been one of the strongest tier 10s. And it's for some very simple reasons. First of all, it hits hard. It has 630 damage per shot right now. I remember when this vehicle was first put into the game and people complained that it didn't have the same alpha as the E100, and now it basically does. It's only 10 alpha difference from what the original 640, the E100, and all other 150s featured. Not only does this vehicle now feature a incredibly high alpha damage, but it also has tungsten shells, actually meaning you can shoot people over 700 damage per shot. Pair that with the fact this vehicle is quite mobile. Not sure why people say the 60 TP is slow, because it's not. We're actually out-accelerating a VZ55 right now. This tank also reverses at 19 kilometers per hour, which is kind of crazy. Not as crazy as me not wanting to go here, but because my VZ took this corner so wide, I guess I am now. Let's see, we got the grill on the wide as well. We got the VK72. Alright, well, let's aim it on that VK. Aiming, aiming, aiming. And we're just going to load a gold shell. There you go. 500 damage shot. Look at the reverse speed on this tank, though. I mean, the fact that the 60 can reverse at 19 when the next fastest heavy reverses at, what, 15, 16? I guess you can get a Kron to reverse it around 18, but it's nowhere near as fast. The 60 TP reversing at this level speed is insane. We get a bounce from the grill, and then we put on our tungsten and shoot him back for 708. Just like that, even though our heat shell low rolled, we are still sitting at a very respectable 1100 damage dealt with our first two shots of the game, which is obviously pretty dang nice. Is that grill going to poke it again? Well, he does. He pens me, and because we still had our tungsten active, we shoot him back for an additional 700. So in two shots, we've brought what was a full health grill down to 300 hit points. Not really sure what his big brain plan was, but clearly it wasn't very big brain and it wasn't much of a plan. If that grill pokes it again, he's going to most definitely be dead. We're going to aim it on the 113, and we get a nice shell clearing his tank. See, the 60 TP, while it is inaccurate, actually got a mega buff with the refined gun changes in the latest update of the game, and it is quite a bit more accurate than it has been in the past. So we're going to aim it on the rear of the enemy 183. There you go. 675 damage, shell clearing his tank. This is why the 60 is such a strong tank. I mean, nobody can deny the results I'm putting out here. This gun chunks. And when you pair the gun chunking with the fact that the vehicle has pretty decent mobility, the fact that it has incredible armor, and over 2,700 hit points, there really shouldn't be much of a question in mind. The 60 really is an amazing tier 10. And, by the way, I'm not worried about getting ammo racked here because that's really not much of a problem you're going to have to worry about. So we get the clearing shell for 475 into the enemy VK-72. We deal over 4,000 damage this battle. We get a win, and a very easy win at that. We hit all the shots we fired, and there wasn't really any problems. As I said, the 60 TP is not slow. Not sure where that idea came from, but if you're running gear oil and you're running improved fuel, which you should, this vehicle's power to weight is actually rather decent at almost 15 on hard terrain. And when you pair that with 40 degrees a second of traverse speed, this tank is just as mobile as an IS-7 on power to weight, so it is not slow. And when you pair that with the fact that this tank has 7 degrees of gun depression and a turret that you really can't pen when using that gun depression, it's a little bit stupid. And, obviously, with the calibrated buffs in the latest update, this vehicle's poor 347mm of heat pen are now actually decent, almost at 360 mils. So, I don't know, I just kind of get a little bit pressed and butthurt when people will try to say the 60 TP is not that great of a vehicle, when it is still easily one of the best tier 10 heavies. I think that this is still top 3 for heavies in tier 10 right now. It is such a hard tank to counter, the gun hits so hard. I hate fighting a hull down 60 TP. The good news is nobody really drives it. And not only that, but good players, you don't see them really ever driving it. Again, mobility-wise, here we are, driving at 40 kilometers per hour. Does this look like a slow tank to you? Chieftain Mark 6 is known as a fairly mobile tier 10 heavy, and it's only slightly out-accelerating me here. That's not that big of a difference when you realize that my tank not only has much more armor than a Chieftain, but also a much higher alpha. So what does the enemy team have? Well, they got a 183, they got a Jagdpanzer, and an E4. All very dangerous and cringe vehicles to go up against, so we're going to actually have to see how this battle ends up unfolding. I am going to be making my way fairly aggressive into the front line here, but the good news is where we're going is completely covered from at least this bush here, and the only spot a 183 could sit is there. So I guess we'll have to see how this actually ends up working out. But I'm going to roll around this corner, we're going to put on our tungsten, and, well, that is a classic 60 TP moment. Not too surprised that it did end up missing, but what we were able to do is back the TVP and the enemy STV off the entire map right now, which is obviously pretty huge and is going to give our team a big standing. Plus, well, our tungsten high explosive for 800 damage into the rear of the STV definitely made up for our previous miss, I think you will agree. Alright, well, pretty good stuff so far. We've already taken what was a pretty healthy team, pushed them off the hill, and we're going to win this game quite easily, I would say. T22 medium somehow gets a bounce from the M60. That's just a bit of a skill issue from the M60. Alright, well, we already know where the rest of the enemy team is. Thankfully, the TDs were not sitting in the back of the map. I find it funny how the entire enemy team had a bunch of mediums, and the tank destroyer said, you know what, we're not going to help out our mediums. Why would we do that, right? Great job from the enemy tank destroyers, right? Well, I could shoot the STB, but I don't really think that's a important shot, especially when I got the TVP right in front of me. It's a much easier clear, and definitely gets the job done. What's really fun is me being stuck on this ridge, which allows the STB to get, well, 2 shots into me. It's not that big of a deal, because we're going to aim it on the E4, get a nice 523 shot out. I don't really care if the STB shoots me, to be honest. This tank reverses so fast that it's not that big of a deal. We're going to back up, hopefully before the Yag's able to shoot us, and beautiful, look at that. Using that mobility, the reverse speed of the 60. I, again, don't think there's really many tanks you can claim that could reverse this fast and get out of a situation that comfortably. But the 60, well, it's your man. Alright, let's back up here. I'm going to try and back up to the point where we can actually not get rammed by our teammate. What are you doing, 183? Like, what are you doing? You just going to drive right out in the open? Oh, go ahead. I'm going to sit right here. We're aiming on the Yag, and there you go. 574 damage right into his hatch. And 183 obviously misses his shot because, yeah, why wouldn't you, right? Well, let's see. Hopefully the M60 gets the clear on that player, which he does. We're going to reload and get the clear on the E4. Nice 505 shot. And that brings us only the one vehicle left, which is the enemy Kron. At this point, we have not only done a decent amount of damage at 2,800, not only supported our team, but we are obviously going to be pulling out a victory here. Once again, this is the 60 TP, and it's why it's such a strong tank. The gun hits hard. And look at the mobility here. This tank is not slow. I still don't understand where the, oh, the tank's slow argument comes from. This was a 3,000 damage victory, one that I didn't really break a sweat in at all. And we steamrolled again. I mean, we just absolutely steamrolled. Taking a look at the post-game results, 3,086 damage. And we did second on the team. Our M60 did a decent job as well, so I can't really complain. He was able to push them off the hill, and I was able to help. And just like that, an absolute steamroll. And even in that steamroll, we were still able to deal some decent chunks of damage. Overall, in my 60 TP, I have 22 games played, 3,800 average damage, and an 82% win rate. And with that, 93% accuracy. And that's because with Refined Gun, you're sitting at 0.327 dispersion. And by the way, this vehicle's aiming time is surprisingly fast for how high the caliber is. So, if you were thinking about grinding the 60, I can tell you for a fact that this is one of the best tanks to grind in a game. The Tier 9 is absolutely amazing, and I think it's actually better than the majority of premium Tier 9s in the game. The Tier 8, well, everybody already knows the Tier 8's amazing because everybody talks about it all the time. It's really only the Tier 7 that's kind of lackluster, but everything else is absolutely amazing from Tier 8 and above. And yeah, I will always slob on the knob of the 60 because it is a fantastic tank, and people truly are underrating this vehicle, and they're not giving it nearly enough credit as it deserves. No, the ammo rack is not a problem, and if it is, you're driving the tank wrong. No, the gun is not a problem. It's honestly fine, and judging that I'm averaging almost 4K, clearly, again, if you're not hitting your shots in this vehicle, you're either not letting them fully aim in and you're snapping them, or you're not driving the vehicle front line, which it should be done in. If you're getting penned constantly, it's because you're not using the vehicle's gun depression and strong turret armor. A lot of people think that the 60 TP is a vehicle that should be driven on flat ground, and while it does have the armor that can drive on flat ground, it is mainly a vehicle that is meant to be used with gun depression. That is why it has 7 degrees and a turret that is nearly impossible to cut through. So use the turret armor, don't use the hull armor. These are all things that I have talked about in the past, and I will keep talking about. The 60 is an amazing tank, and I just find it weird how many people try to say it's not really that good, even though it's easily one of the best. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.